Hi guys, nice to be here today. My name is Fabrice Forêt. I'm part of the XSharp project. I'm a dev team member, and I'm happy to be part of the virtual Foxfest this year and to present you this session about REST and how you can be RESTful using XSharp. Few words about me. It's been a long time since I started to work with PC and softwares, but you can see what was part of my journey with all this. And I'm now I'm a teacher in France, but I'm also a member of the XSharp project. And this is what XSharp is what we will use today for this session. So what about this session? It is mainly about REST. So we will have a few words about the context, what was before REST, and what is REST, and what is the difference between REST and RESTful. You can see that we will talk about server. So REST is related to clients and server and exchanging data. So how you can organize your server, and we will prepare our environment for this session. So if you want to try the material that I will provide, all the demo stuff, you will need to prepare your laptop for that. And we will see quickly how you can achieve that task. Then we will go deeper and create our server using the XSharp language. And then we will enhance that the application we will start it with to provide some data access, especially using XSharp capability to handle DBFs, and we will try as much as possible to use the FoxPro syntax for that, as XSharp allows us to specify the type of dialect we will use for the compilation. If you don't know what is XSharp, it is a project that has it is an open source project whose goal is to provide a compiler for X-based languages, producing some pure .NET code. So it comes with a compiler and some tools, runtime with different families of function for XSharp itself, the support of visual object, of X-Base++, Arbor, and FoxPro also. And it provides also some replaceable data driver, and this is what we will use in this session today. And after that, what's next? When we have our server that is ready to use, what are the things we will have to remember if we want to turn it into a production ready server? So first, a few words about the context, because REST is a technology that is used today, but it comes from something else. It comes from the need to exchange data between a client and a server application. So you can use, and maybe you are using today SQL for that, and your application is in your application you have the SQL queries, and you are sending these queries to the server. But the goal was to use something else where the query were not stored in your client application, but somewhere on the server, and the client is just looking for data and it is the server responsibility to organize the query to give the right information in the right form. So for that, previously there were several protocol. One was SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol, and later also another one called CORBA were there. These two protocols are mostly based on exchanging XML data, and XML is a little bit verbose and it's not very easy to read, so not very easy to debug if you are doing that through looking at the network queries. Another trouble is that these protocols are using specific ports and organizations. So you have to use some specific libraries, and you also have to take care of the way you are configuring the network you are exchanging, on which you are exchanging data. So it means that not only you will have to take care of your client application at the server, but you also have to take care of the libraries, the language, and the full network environment. So it works, but it's not very easy to organize. So this is where REST is offering something new. So what is REST and what about RESTful? REST means representational state transfer. What is important to understand is that REST is stateless. Each time you will query your server, it will give you an information for the current state of the data, but it will not keep the memory of your previous exchange. So this is something that we will have to take care of, and we will see that in the demo later. What is interesting is that it uses standard HTTP. So you have on your network with firewalls or routers or whatever, you don't have specific configuration to do for in order to use REST. It is resource oriented. We will see later why, and the way it is organized, the API that you will provide in your server is quite simple. Quite, because the process can be complex, but the way you expose the API is easy to read. And you are hiding the data complexity through that API. And you will see in the next slides that what you will have to define is URL. As we are using HTTP as the protocol for data exchange, for the transfer, everything will be based on everything. The API will be based on the URL that you are using to query the server. And finally, the way the data are exchanged is based on JSON. So I don't know if you know what the acronym means, but it is JavaScript Object Notation. So everything is object oriented, and the notation in JSON means that you have in text the name of each property with a separator and then the corresponding value for that object. But we will see that in the demo. So I talked about URL. It is because we're using HTTP exchanges. So when you are querying the server, a REST server, what you will send to the server, it's standard HTTP queries. So you can have get, post, put, or delete, for example. And it is defined in REST that depending on the query, you specify the type of action that you want to have. So it could be retrieve the data if you are using get, creating some data if you're using post, etc. What we will have in the demo, we will only use get and post, but we will use post in order to update data. So I'm not strictly following the rules that are defined in REST, but this is, I find it easier to make it that way. Again, we're using HTTP methods, so it means that the server will return some information to indicate if the process was successful or not, and the response will respect HTTP status. So you can, for example, return 200 code to indicate that everything was fine, or if somebody is looking after an API that does not exist, or if you wrongly call the API, you can specify if we have a 404 error or if it is a 400 status, depending on the type of the error that you have made. And finally, if for any reason you crash the server would reply to the client that there has something bad has happened. So we will try to avoid this as much as possible. And I prefer to return some well-known error status than that 500, which is very bad sign. So what is RESTful? In fact, REST define what we have seen before. REST define the way to organize your API and your response to queries. RESTful is a definition for an application. And if your application is RESTful, then it means that it respects REST. Mostly, as I said, I will not fully respect REST, but I can consider that my application is still a RESTful application. So REST defines the architecture that you want to use, and RESTful is more related to the way you implement these REST rules, let's say. So now that we know that we have to respect a certain type of architecture, so HTTP request, we know the standard request, mostly with get and post. We know also the type of reply that we can have to our query with a status code also. The question is, okay, how do you create your server? In fact, anything that can handle HTTP can be used to create a REST server or a RESTful application. Nowadays, there are many servers that are using JavaScript, especially with Node.js. Node.js is an application fully written in JavaScript that offers the support of HTTP server, but also natively, let's say, support REST. So it is organized to handle these queries, the URL, and we will talk about later about what is root. A root responds to a URL. You can also use PHP, for example, and there is a framework called Laravel that has been created to handle several queries with PHP, and it supports the organization of REST in your application. You can also do that with Java. There are lots of REST servers that are based, that are using the Java language, and with for example, one of the framework which is called Spring Boot. You can also do that with .NET Core, because with ASP, ASP is providing some wage pages. You can have some code in the inside, but you can also use ASP to provide access to the data through a RESTful application. And you can write that in C#, but also in XSharp. This is what we will see later in the session. So we know a little bit more about what is REST for, so accessing data through API. We know that we will have to handle queries with get and post and return information in JSON with a status code. We now know that anything that can handle HTTP can be used to create REST. So what about the clients now? Well, this is another interest of REST, is that you are providing an access to your data, and the client can be any type of application that can send the HTTP query and get back the information. So nowadays, it is very common to see clients in form of JavaScript application, or from web pages that embed some JavaScript code. This is what I will use later in the demo. So my RESTful application will be written using XSharp, using .NET, but my client is something completely different, and in fact it will be an HTML page with some JavaScript in the inside that is querying my server. You can also have mobile application, and for example, if you are developing Android application, you can use Android Studio or JetBrains IntelliJ. And nowadays, the language that JetBrains provided, which is called Kotlin, has been referred by Google as one of the preferred language to create Android application. And like with web pages, you cannot put the queries and the call to OLETB or DBC or whatever, or GDBC in your application. So you have to send queries to your server and just get the data. And that's the case with Kotlin. You cannot call directly GDBC from Kotlin in Android. It does not exist. The connectors does not exist. So Kotlin has some libraries. One is called retrofit, that is specifically designed to exchange data through REST in the REST form. So this will not be part of my demo, but what I mean here is that with our .NET server, we can provide data to any type of client. So now the question is, okay, we will try to define our server. So we have, again, I will be a bad citizen because I will tell you to organize your server, but for my demo, I will not exactly follow the rules. But it is good if you have a big application to organize your server using different layers, and each layer, it's good to put the code for each layer in different folders, so it's easier to debug and to follow the progress. So what is recommended when you are creating a RESTful application is to first create what's called the control layer. The control layer is where your HTTP request will arrive. So when you will send your request, it will arrive on the server, and the server will route that information to the control layer. This is where you will get the request, where you can get the parameters if there are any, and from there you will access your data. So this will be done mostly on the service layer. And again, it is better to have organized your data in structure and class. So these classes must be stored, should be stored in a folder called model, for example. This is what is recommended when you are organizing, when you are creating a RESTful application, if you want to keep the things clearer as possible. So first, organize your data, create some model to access your data, but also to return the data. The model is the way you will have some information inside the request, and it is also the way you will return data. Don't forget that REST is stateless, so you have to keep that in mind. When you are returning information, you may have to return some extra information if the information you are giving back will be used for another request, for example. Then the controllers, the controllers, as I said, is what the server will call when it will receive the request. As we are using HTTP, we are using URL as the endpoint, so you will define in the controller what is called the route, how you can access to a specific request and get the data you are looking for. So since then, everything has been theoretical, so let's try to make this more concrete, and we will start to work with XSharp. If you want to give a try to what we will demo later, you will have to prepare your environment. So maybe it's good to create a virtual machine for the test. If so, you will need to install some tools. So at least you will need the .NET 8 SDK. It should work with .NET 9, but all the material that you will see and you will get with that session is based on .NET 8, as it is a long-term support of .NET. So forgive me, sometimes I'm talking about .NET Core. It is the .NET that is not framework related, but it is what it used to be called .NET Core. So you will also need XSharp because we will need the compiler and some libraries, the runtime that come with XSharp. For this presentation, I will be using the .NET 24, which is at the time of recording this session, the latest public version. So for that, you just have to go to xsharp.eu and go to download, and you will have to register to the website in order to download the latest installer of XSharp. When you install XSharp, it will look for Visual Studio. If you Microsoft Visual Studio, the full plain version. If you don't have Visual Studio, and I will not use Visual Studio for the demonstration, during the installation, XSharp will ask if you want to download at least Visual Studio Community. You can reply no to this question, because what we will try to use for this session is Visual Studio Code. It is simpler than Visual Studio. It is lighter to install. We will need some extension for Visual Studio. The first one is C# because when we will build our application and run it, Visual Studio Code will look for the common language runtime and several tools. So it's you will have to install the C# extension in Visual Studio Code. I suggest that you install the XSharp language extension because it provides some syntax coloring in Visual Studio for XSharp language, so it will make reading the code easier. And in the demo, I will use another extension which is called REST client. So there are several ones, so I suggest that you click on the link of the PowerPoint presentation or in the PDF to get the right extension. I'm pretty sure that if you don't use exactly the same version that the one I'm using, they are mostly using the same syntax. The advantage of this is we can create a server and we can query the server without client application. So it's good for the debug, for the very first test. Check that the communication is okay, that the format of data are okay, etc. Later we will use a client application, but again, I think it is very useful when you want to start. And I also suggest that you install some add-on to XSharp because we are heavily working on XSharp 3. XSharp 3 will natively support NuGet packages for .NET Core. It is partially the case nowadays. So I've created some zip files, some extension that you will have to get and install on your computer in order to ease. The objective is to ease the building of your application. So everything is explained in the white paper that comes with this video, but I will quickly show you what you will have to do. So these are the stuff that you will need to install on your laptop, and then you're ready to give it a try. So I suggest that we will now use XSharp for our server.
So let's have a look at our environment. So we have installed .NET on the laptop, and I will check the version that I have, which is .NET 8. But again, if you have .NET 9, it should work also. I have downloaded, where is it? Okay, so I've downloaded the 2.24 version of XSharp, installed, and said no thanks to Visual Studio, but I have then installed Visual Studio Code, and with Visual Studio Code I have some extension installed. So first I looked for C#, then I looked for XSharp language. If you don't know how to install this extension in Visual Studio Code, on the toolbar you just click on the icon extension, and from there you can type and search for the extension you're looking for. So the one I use is from InfoMinds AG, and it's already installed. And the other extension that I have installed is REST client, and we will see that this extension will allow us to easily query our server without the need for a client application. But in the end we will use a client application. So I have Visual Studio Code, and I also have installed some extra extensions that are needed for XSharp 2. They will be part of XSharp 3, but we are still ending the development of that version, and we hope maybe to have a release during at least our summit in Germany. So there are two files that you will need to download. There are two zip files. One contains some NuGet packages that we will use with our project, especially if we want to support FoxPro as a dialect and some of the FoxPro syntax and runtime functions. And the other one is containing some templates. These templates are with .NET Core one of the way to create new application. So the command line for .NET is .NET new. From there, .NET new, and from there you can create some application. So if you type .NET new, you will have the standard basic application, and if I .NET new list, you have 3 templates that I have created and installed on this laptop. So here is how to proceed. You will have to get the zip file, unzip the file, and if I open the terminal from there, you can see that I have a README, so you can follow the instruction on the README, and I have a new pkg file, NuGet package. So how to do that? It's .NET new install and then the name of the package that contains the template you want to install. Here it's already there. If you want to uninstall templates, it's just .NET new uninstall. You will have the list of the templates you can uninstall. That so you see that I just have my version of these templates, and it's done. The template had disappeared, and I can reinstall again. So these are the templates we will need to start our demo. So what I will do, I will go back to my document, to my document folder, and from there I will create an application. So what I will do here is first create a folder. Let's create first a console application to see how it works. So I'm in an empty T folder, and from there I will use the template to create a .NET new application. Again, I will .NET new list, and the first application I will create is something that is based on the model called XS console Fox fab. The postfix fab part of my first name is just here to avoid to collide with the future official templates from XSharp. So you can see that we have an XSharp language console application using VFP dialect that has been created. If I look at the files, I can see a project that has the name of the folder. I can see a PRG file, which is the start of my console application, and the .vs code here is a folder. In fact, it contains some JavaScript and definition mostly, in order to use Visual Studio Code more easily to run our application, and etc. So what I will do now is run Visual Studio Code, but I will specify dot, so it will open in the current folder. And I have my project that will load. So on the left, my program with the syntax coloring with the help of the XSharp lang extension, and the project file with some definition. It is where we can see that, maybe I can, no, it doesn't work, where we can see that we have the FoxPro dialect defined, plus several other compiler switch that are here to ease our work. So for example, we have the support of the old style assignment, so single equal for an assignment, the use of dot as a selector, where XSharp is using the semicolon as a selector with object, etc. So we are in a FoxPro dialect mode. So in order to build my application, thanks to this folder, you see that there are several tasks. I can simply run without debugging because currently there are no debug support in Visual Studio Code, but I won't follow that path. I will make it the hard way. I will create a new terminal. So the terminal will open in the current folder, and the way to build an application with .NET using the command line interface is to type .NET build, and it will simply compile the application and generate the executable. You can also type .NET run, and so it will build and run the application. Here I just want to try a build, and I should have a trouble that we will solve together. Okay, so you can see that it tried to restore a package called xsharp.vfp that is defined in the project. So again, this in the future XSharp 3 will not be a trouble because everything will be installed directly. Here we are in between, so we have something to do by hand. Remember that I told you that we downloaded 2 zip files, and if I forgot, it's written in the PDF or in the white paper, but just to show you where you can find this file, you can go to my personal website related to Visual Object and XSharp, so it's vaptoys.net. And from there, you go to download file, you go to XSharp, and then XSharp next version. And in the next version, there are 2 files, which are the zip file we will need for our demo. So first about the templates, it's already done. We have seen how to install the template for the new console and later for the web application. And now let's have a look at the NuGet packages. So the NuGet packages are there. There are 3 of them. One for the XSharp core language, one for the runtime functions, and the other one to support VFP dialect. So what I will do is I will copy these files to somewhere there. I will create a local packages folder. Here we are, and there I will copy paste my 3 files there. So I have now in the local packages folder the 3 NuGet packages I will need to use for this project. What we will do now is in fact install these packages in the local NuGet packages store. So we only want to do this once, and for the rest of the demo it's no more needed. NuGet will know and .NET will know where to find the corresponding files. So the three files are in the folder. I will stay there in the project, and the command line is the following. We will use .NET add package. We specify the name of the package we want to install, and here I will specify XSharp.vfp, and this one is using XSharp RT and XSharp Core as a dependencies. So when I install this package, it will also install the two other one, and I specify that the source is from the local packages folder. Okay, so there are lots of blah blah blah, and now if I do it again. Okay, so my application has been built. There are several warnings due to my code because I'm not declaring this local, the type usual, because the local has not been declared, so XSharp is using a special type for this kind of local. But what I can do now is .NET Run, and there are also several messages about the fact that the packages were built against .NET Framework 4.8 and that we are running on with .NET Core, .NET 8. But in fact, it won't harm, and we can still run our application. So you can see that, hello, today we are in September, the 27th of in 2025, and that we are running on Windows 10 with OS Platform 2. Okay, so we have something that is working, building from inside Visual Studio Code. We have some syntax coloring, and now we have the needed packages to support the FoxPro dialect. So everything has been set up the right way. So now let's try to create something else, to create our very first web application. So let's go back, let's make a new folder, let's call test REST, and let's go to test REST. So there, what we will create is a web root application. So .NET new XS web root, again the postfix. Okay, so we have our application created. Let's open it with .NET. So Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we have most of there. We have the program which is creating a RESTful object and that runs that RESTful object. There is a special line here, and you can see that it is needed to support DBF. In .NET Core there is something with code pages, and this line is currently needed for DBF support. So this sample does not support DBF, but we will use it as a base for the rest of the demo, so that the line is already there. So let's have a look at the RESTful class. So the syntax here is something, it is the XSharp Core syntax. So we are using not defined class as in FoxPro, but simply class with an end class, and we don't have functions, but we have methods with end methods. This is the code that will create and run the server. So it is the very beginning of the application. Here we have some trick in order to exchange data and supporting lowercase. Honestly, you can remove that, but if you do it, you will have to take care that the casing between your client application and your server are the same. If you don't want to bother about the casing, one idea is to transform everything in JSON in, for example, lowercase. So we can see that the property naming policy is lowercase and etc. Same for the element that we could find. So for example, dictionary keys. Another thing here is about CORS, which is cross-origin cross-origin resource sharing. So the way we share these resources, so in fact our JSON object, for the way the data are exchanged is kind of a sandbox, and stuff must belong to the same box if you want to exchange them. So the HTTP, the web page that will query the server should come from the server. If the page comes from something else than the server that is running the rest, you have to take care of cross-origin resource sharing. Here I allow everything. I'm not sure that's a good practice for production, but for developments that's very easy. It will allow me to simply double-click on a HTML file and to use it as a client. Again, if I double-click on it, it doesn't come from the server, but it comes from my computer. So the CORS policy. What else? We have the customer controller. So the controller is the engine that will reply to the request. So by specifying that this class is an API controller, the machinery here will extract the name, the prefix of the controller name, and this prefix is the name of the controller. So when I specify there that the route to call this class is API/controller, the name of the controller is customers. So if I want to reach that code, I have to call API/customers. And if I reach that route using a get, it will come there. And if I reach the route with post, it will come from elsewhere. So the other method will be called, sorry. But I can also write another route, which is not the standard one that the class will reply. And for that, I have to specify on top of the method that this method will reply to HTTP post and will reply to the route API customer. Remark that I removed the plural in the end. Okay, so this is the definition of the controller, and remember that the controller is managing data. So I have a class, a simple class that is in fact a model of the data that I will exchange between my application and the client. So let's keep the controller there, and again I will use the terminal to proceed. First let's .NET build and check that the packages have been correctly installed and etc. So it seems to be okay because we only have warnings, so we can go with .NET Run. And you can see that there is something has started. It is listening to localhost 5185, and if I control click on it, the reply is 404, and I can check there from my edge, that from my browser, that the localhost has not been found. So I have a 404 reply, and we can see there that this is a reply that has been sent, 404, because we tried to reach the root of the server, but there is no way to follow that route to route. Nothing has been planned to reply, so the 404 status. So how can we query the running server? This is where the extension REST client will be used. In the template, I'm providing you a folder called test REST, and that folder contains some HTTP requests. And for example, one, get to the local server to the root API customer. And remember, this is API customer get, so we should have this method to handle the request. So let's see if I select the request and send request, I have a response which is 200, so there are no errors. If I look in the terminal, I can see that the root matches with action get customers in the controller customers, and that request finished with 200. This is what we have here. And you can see that in the reply, I have some JSON information. So the bracket indicates that this is an array. And in the array, I have an object. And this object has some properties. First name, last name, zip, city with some content. You can see that these properties are all in lowercase because we have the lowercase policy that has been enabled there. If I go to the, let's close the response. If I want to check the post, what I will need to do is simply post to API and the name of the controller, so customers. And I have to pass a list of customers. What will happen is that I will have a message that should be returned with the name of the customers that have been passed as parameter. So let's go to the post customers. You see that I have an array, two brackets. So I have an array, and in this bracket I have square brackets, I have two objects. They have the same property. You can see that the properties have some camel case casing, but it's not a problem because we will handle everything in lowercase. So I have two objects, myself and John Doe. If I send the request, I see in the console that post customers have been called with Fabrice and John, and this is what I have in the code. So I can see what is written on the console in the terminal, and the reply is a message which is the same as the one written in the console. So here is the message. So you can see that with a get you can get some data, some object, and with the post, for example, you can also get a reply with the status code, but also with some other information that could help you to data processing, for example. So there is another route we can follow, which is API customer, and we will just not send an array, but a single customer. So let's have a look at the request. Sorry, it's the other one. So we have a simple object. We specify the route without the plural, so without the S in the end. And if I run this, okay, single customer called with value. This is what we have in the terminal, and this is what we have also in the code. So you can see now that we have an application that is running this web this REST server, that this server replied to different route, that we have defined a controller for a specific type of data which is defined in the other file. Again, this is the way REST is. Suppose that you will organize your data, and if you want to have a RESTful application, you have to follow these rules. It's quite easy. What we have on top of code with the square bracket here is in .NET what is called attributes, and these attributes add more information to the code. So I have the code and I specify that this code with handle HTTP GET. This HTTP GET comes from the route which has been defined on top, and this is okay as it runs inside an API controller. So you can specify several attributes, and these attributes can have parameters to give, again, more information in a form of metadata to the compiler and to .NET itself. So now things are running in Visual Studio Code using the extension that allows me. It's a kind of debugging of my request. So what about the client now? In the material that you will get with the white paper, you will have several files, and one is, let's open an HTML file. So even if you are not very you don't know much about JavaScript and HTML, so we have a table which is defined there, and we have some script, and this script is written in JavaScript. And you can see that in JavaScript we are fetching data from our API customer. Remember, this is the get customers, API customers, and this will return an array of customer. So if I go back to my JavaScript, so I fetch the data from API customers, then what we will have is for each customers, and customers are the JSON response of the fetch. So from the JSON response, we will search for each object. Remember, this is an array of objects, and with that we will create a row in the table that has been defined on top. So let's have a look at the result. So we have the web page with nothing there, and there is a button, and this button, where is it? Okay, the button is there with load customer as a text, and it will call the fetch customers. So fetch customers, and you can see that currently I only have one customer in my array as a reply, so I only have one customer in my table. So we will go further to get more information, but okay, we can see that we have an XSharp written application that is doing stuff with HTTP using some webroot stuff that comes from where is it? ASP.NET Core, okay, and we are returning this information to a web page with code written in JavaScript. So our data is moving from XSharp to JavaScript and to a web page. So as I said previously, it could be an Android application that could query our RESTful application to get this data. So the problem now is I would like to add some information to my server. So let's go to another version of this code. So close folder, and from the material I will enter this file. So it is test rest, but it is version 2. And I will run in Visual Studio Code again. So we have nearly the same thing, but let's jump directly to the controller. What we try to do here is locally we have a list of customers. And this list of customers is created and filled at construction time. So when you create an object controller, I will put one object inside, so myself. So you can retrieve the customers. It's a little bit like before, but I just move the creation of the list from there to the constructor. And then it is possible to pass a single customer and to add that customer to the list. Okay, let's check and see what is happening there. I've done something wrong. Sorry, my fault. It is the name of the project that is not the right. The name is not okay. So let's do it this way. Let's .NET run. So build and run. Okay, let's check. Let's send the request. So I retrieve the name. So the controller has been created. The list has been created in the controller, and I have added the customer in the list. Now I will try to, sorry, where is it? Okay, I will try to send myself another time, or I could change. Let's John. Oops. Chandu. And send the request. So what is happening? Blah blah blah. Oh, I've done something wrong. So let's have a look at the controller. My bad. So you can see that it doesn't work because the API customer root does not exist, but in this version I change it to add customers. So let's correct the root and send again. Okay, we have John Doe that has been passed to the method, and if things works as expected, that customers should have been added to the list. So if I get the list, I should have two people, myself and John Doe. So let's go back to the get, close the response. Yes, save please. So get, send, and there is something wrong. I'm alone again. In fact, there is nothing wrong. Remember, REST means stateless. So when you call, if I follow somewhere there, for example, when you call the server with a get with the right root, what the ASP.core do is create an object of that type, look for the root you are looking for, so it is a get, give you the answer you are looking at, so it returns the list, and then it will destroy the object. REST is stateless, so there are no memory between each call to APIs. So we have to do something if we want to keep that memory between the different calls. So we will go to the next version in the demo, and So what we can do here, but I'm not sure it is the right thing to do, but what we can do here is to go to the main class. The main, when you start, function start, you create one object from the RESTful class, and that object is in fact responsible to run the application. And that object in the run method will build the web application and then map the controllers and run it. So this object will stay alive during the whole running of your server. What we can do is to put the list there. And you see it is static. It means that it does not belong to the object, but it does belong to the class. So it will exist for the whole time our application is running. So now I moved the initialization of the list in the static constructor, and when you want to have access to the list, I will return the list that is stored in the class. So now if we have a look at the controller, when we create an object, we get the original list locally to the object, to the controller. So this is where we will add the new customer. So if I check this by running the application, okay, I can query the get, and I only have one customer here. And if I use the post, simple post, sorry, I will close everything. It will be easier to see. Single and in the controller, the root is now add customer. So I have to say that I want to add customer, which is John, do, and send. So the single customers has been received. It should have been added. So let's check into the get. Where am I? Oh, my bad. Sorry. Get. Oh, yes, because I have the response still open. Get. Okay. So if I get the customers, plural, and I get the original one, and each time I press on post customer, I have added a new John Doe. So if I want to add some of my colleague, for example, Robert van der Hulst, and send, so he has been added to the list. I could ask my other colleague, Chris Pergas, to the list, and I could add, sorry, my bad, Nikos Kokaris. I hope I did not misspell his name. Okay, so now if I go back to the get request, and I can find my colleague Robert, Chris, and Nikos from the XSharp project into the list. So that's the way to keep information between the different queries. Again, I repeat, each time you have a query, there is a new controller object. So you should not store information inside the controller. The controller is just here to pass information. So, okay, and what about my data? If I have some external data, like in a DBF table, and I want to have this information, I want to access this information through the server. By the way, I forgot. What if I load the customer with my page, my web page? You see that I can get all the table there. And I can even, if I look at the source code, we now have something to call the add customer API, and to give it as a parameter the customer object which come from the formula in the web page. So I can add I don't know, another people to my list. So it will call, where is, what I can do maybe is to have a look at the terminal there, and oh sorry, 1 2 3 4, and some thing here. Okay, so the patch says the customer has been added successfully. It means that in the JavaScript I was able to get the 200 status reply. I can see here that where is it? Excuse me. Get, I'm looking for the add customer. It is there. So the add customer has been called successfully, and then get customer has been called. So the people that I had was then put into the list, and the get customers allow me to refresh the list with the new list of people. So we have something that is really interactive between these two code from two totally different types, and I'm just transferring JSON information to the JavaScript, or JSON information from the JavaScript to my XSharp code. So now it would be cool if we could use some DBF tables, and let's go. So what do we have here is a DBF, oops, sorry. And in this DBF, there are records from with different field. I'm not using all the field, I'm using the same 4 fields that I had before. I have just added a customer ID in the class. You will see later why. So we now have nearly the same thing. We still have the add customer route, but we also have the modify customer route. So if you have a quick look at the code, the beginning seems to be the same, but oops, there are some FoxPro-like code there. Use the DBF in shared mode, and then scan the database to add the record to the list, and this is the list we are returning. So here the list is a local var from the get of the HTTP, and it's filled with information coming from the DBF. So where is this function? It is in the helper class. In the helper class, I create object customer, and then I fill the information for the current object, for the current record, sorry, into the object. And you can see that I'm using the customer ID to store the record number, the recno of the DBF in the JSON information we will extend. These are field names of the current cursor, so the current database. So as I open customer in shared mode, XSharp is looking for first name as a field in the current database at the moment you call that function. So there. So I use the database, I open the database, and then the field does exist. By the way, in order to use the FoxPro syntax, I have modified a bit the project, previously, in the previous sample, I was using XSharp core as a language. I'm now, as in the very first demo, using FoxPro as a dialect for my application. So we could try to look at the result.net run, and we have a RESTful application that is running, and that will have access to the DBF from the project. So if I open my web page, I can load customers, and the result that I have are the people that come from the DBF that we have here. Oh, I am already there because I have used the DBF as a test, but we could, let's try. If I copy, yes. Okay, this one is the original version. I could replace it because, remember, we are stateless, so the database has been closed between each request. So now, if I do it again, I will not appear in the database, but I can add myself once, and my, city also, add customers. Okay, I'm now part of the list, part of the DBF, and if I have a look at the DBF, it has been modified. And what I can see is that in order to be added, I used an append blank, a customer to record, so it's the other way. I get the JSON object, and I will write this JSON object to the record, so to the database. Then I commit and close the database. So we have the other part of the code, get the JSON object and get the information from the JSON object and write it to the DBF field in order to create this new customer. So it would be good if we could modify customers from the database with our application. So what we will need to add is some code to select a line, and this is part of the full client. So we can load customers, and we can select one, and it will appear there, and save these customers. In order to keep track of the customer, everything is based, in my sample, on the record number, on the RECNO. And what is happening here is a new customer will have there. Sorry, let's close the terminal. The application is still running. I hope so. But you can see that we will try to go to the specified record number. And if we are not able to go at the right place, so this is a new record, so record not found. And if we find the right customer, don't forget we are in a shared environment, so let's try to first lock the record, write, and then unlock. We are in a shared environment because this server could be called by several clients. So we have one source of data, but we could have multiple clients running at the same time. And this is why we need to lock the record before any modification. So I have my page here. Maybe I could open it. I don't know if I have. Yes, Firefox. So it would be cool, not now, if we, thank you, if we could open the web page there, And so we have the same code. One is running with Firefox, the other one is running with Edge. So it also means that I could add my ABC from there. I've done something wrong. Let's see what is happening. Where is the terminal? So add customer. So it doesn't work, and it might be interesting to have a look at the execution. So we try to add a customer, which is okay, but we can see that there is a bad request object result writing value to validation problem details. So it seems that during the add customer call there is something wrong, and in fact it comes from the web page. The web page is checking the record number, the customer ID, to check if we are modifying a customer or adding a new customer. The problem is when adding a new customer, if you don't set the value customer ID with to an integer, it will crash the validation. So you have to add this line. In fact, it will be corrected in the demo material, in the session material. So we have to put a numerical value to the record number. If that's not the case, we have a trouble with the validation. So you see that, okay, we are sending JSON object, and these objects should follow the model that you have defined in your REST application. So let's try again. Oh no, sorry, I have to refresh. Try again. No, it still doesn't work. Did I save? Maybe not the new code. So refresh the web page, load, and try to add the customer. Okay, now it works. And if I look at the execute, okay, so we have the add customers and everything is okay now. Okay, so I think I'm a bit too long, but okay. We have the several steps with the queries and trying to persist our information, and finally use the DBF file and use some FoxPro syntax and command to access the database. So you need to create the model of your data and to create some helper function to copy paste, let's say, the information between JSON and your database. But then root and etc. is taken care by ASP.NET Core, because we have created a web root application. Now, if you want to go to production, you should consider adding some authentication mechanism, use HTTPS and not HTTP, etc., etc. But it is going far beyond this presentation, and unfortunately, we won't have the time for today, but it is something we can think about maybe for an advanced session about REST and RESTful application with XSharp. So, oh, I've done. Okay, so we are at the end of this presentation. What we have learned today is what is REST and RESTful, how to organize our server, how to set up our development environment in order to use XSharp to access our data and to provide, to create the RESTful server with this. I hope you have learned something and that it was interesting. And if you want to know more, you can come and join us in Germany for next year in February. The date has been cut on my slide, so it is 15 to 17, very near Berlin. In Berlin area in Germany. So you're welcome. And if you want more information, you can contact me either through my email, but I think it would be better to use the forum from the XSharp website, so we could share with other users this kind of knowledge. So thank you for listening, and hope to see you on the website or maybe in our summit in Germany. Bye.